I walked in on my parents yelling at my 6-year-old like she was worthless. I pulled up to my parents' house right as they were in the middle of yelling at my 6-year-old daughter. "Wash the dishes properly, you useless girl," my mother snapped. But before I dive into all that, let me say this: I've noticed the channel's been slowing down a bit lately. If you're here and you like these stories, hitting that subscribe button is the easiest way to show support. It's fast, it's free, and it really helps keep this community growing strong. Meanwhile, my sister's kids were off to the side laughing like it was all a big joke. That was the last straw for me. I canceled the payments I'd been making on my parents' house, and not long after, the bank put it up for auction. My name's Julian Martinez. I'm 34 years old, and everything in my life revolves around one person, my daughter, Maya. She came into my life when she was barely 2 years old. I adopted her without hesitation, and the moment I laid eyes on her, I knew she was it for me. Her wide eyes, the little shy smile she gave me, and the way her tiny hand wrapped around my finger, it completely melted me. Blood doesn't mean a thing to me. Maya may not share my DNA, but she's my daughter through and through. Unfortunately, not everyone in my family shares that perspective. From day one, my parents, Victor and Isabel, never fully accepted Maya. The day I told them I was adopting her, I saw their expressions twist into something I still can't forget. "Why don't you just find a woman and have kids of your own?" my mom said, like Maya was some kind of bad decision. A phase. My dad didn't sugarcoat anything either. "She's not our blood, Julian. It's just not the same," he said flatly. Those words cut deep, like someone had driven a knife straight into my chest. Still, I brushed it off, hoping they'd come around eventually. I thought that in time, they'd get to know Maya and see how special she is. I couldn't have been more wrong. Even so, I kept trying to maintain a decent relationship with them, not for my sake, but because I believed in family. I thought it was important to stay connected, especially since my parents weren't doing well financially. A few years back, they both lost their jobs. My dad had worked at a factory that ended up shutting down, and my mom, who used to be a secretary, couldn't land anything steady afterward. They asked me for help, and as their son, I stepped up. I started covering part of their mortgage. It wasn't just pocket change either. Their house, the same one I grew up in with my sister Nina, was big and old, and the payments weren't small. But I had a good job as an engineer at a construction firm, so I made it work. Every month, I wired over a decent amount just so they wouldn't lose their home. It was my way of giving back. Still, deep down, I always felt like they didn't really appreciate it. Nina, my younger sister, has 2 daughters, Luna and Zara. They're 7 and 5. And every time they visit, it's like they rule the place. My parents shower them with affection, gifts, trips to the park, the whole 9 yards. And look, I'm not mad about that. I'm actually happy to see my nieces being loved and cared for. What bothers me is how different they treat Maya when we bring all 3 girls over to visit. More often than not, Maya gets ignored. They barely even talk to her. Sometimes, they'd leave her out of games or little activities they planned. I kept telling myself I was imagining it, but they didn't mean anything by it. I wanted to believe they were just awkward around her, not mean-spirited. Eventually, I decided that Maya needed more time with her cousins. I figured if they spent time together, they could build the kind of bond one had with Nina when we were growing up. Maya's such a sweet kid. Always smiling, always trying to make friends. I thought a day at my parents' place, playing with Luna and Zara, would be great for her. I had an important meeting at work that day, and leaving her with them seemed like a solid plan. I made it clear, told my parents to keep an eye on her, to let her enjoy time with her cousins. I explained everything and double-checked they understood. "I'll only be gone a few hours," I said. "Don't worry, Julian," my mom replied with a smile. Looking back now, that smile feels fake. "She'll be fine here." That morning, I dropped Maya off at their house. She had her little pink backpack slung over her shoulder with a few toys inside, and the biggest grin on her face. "I'm going to play with my cousins, Daddy," she said excitedly. I kissed her forehead and told her I'd be back for her after work. I drove away feeling totally at ease, confident she was in good hands. Looking back, I realized just how naive I was. The day at work dragged on. That meeting ran way longer than I expected, and by the time I wrapped everything up, it was already getting dark. I headed straight to my parents' house, eager to hear Maya go on about her day and how much fun she'd had. But as soon as I got there, I could tell something was off. The front door was half open, and from the driveway, I could hear raised voices. Angry voices. One of them was my mother, and she was yelling. "Wash those dishes better, you useless girl. Look at this mess, they're still dirty," she screamed. I froze. Who the hell was she talking to like that? I stepped inside quietly, without saying a word. What I saw next shattered my heart into a million pieces. There was Maya, my little 6-year-old girl, standing on a wooden crate in the kitchen. Her tiny hands were submerged in soapy water, struggling to reach the dishes in the sink. Her arms were barely long enough, and her face was flushed red, tears streaming down her cheeks as she sobbed, desperately trying to clean a big plate she could barely hold steady. Meanwhile, my sister's daughters, Luna and Zara, were just standing there with toys in their hands, laughing and making fun of Maya while my parents shouted at her to keep working. They were playing like it was all just a game, but my poor daughter was being forced to do chores. "What the hell is going on here?" I yelled, storming into the kitchen. Maya looked up, and the moment she saw me, she ran into my arms, holding on tight. Her hands were wet and shaking. "Daddy, I'm sorry," she cried, her voice breaking. I don't know how to wash dishes. I felt a rage inside me like nothing I'd ever known before, like something inside just snapped all at once. Why is Maya washing dishes? I demanded, my voice shaking with fury as I stared at my parents. Why are you treating her like a servant while Luna and Zara just stand there mocking her? My mother stepped forward, wearing that same dismissive look she always did when she wanted to excuse something awful. Julian, calm down. It's nothing serious. We're just teaching her to be useful. It's good for her to learn responsibility early. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? I echoed, disbelief thick in my voice. She's just a 6-year-old girl. She should be playing with her cousins, not scrubbing dishes she can't even reach. And on top of that, I added, you're yelling at her and calling her useless? What's wrong with you? Finally, my father spoke up. He'd stayed silent until then. Look, Julian, it's no big deal. We just asked her to help a little. Nina's girls don't have to do that because, well, they're real granddaughters. His words hit me like a gut punch. Real, I said, voice low and dripping with contempt. So Maya isn't real? Is that why you treat her like garbage? Just because she's adopted? My mother tried to smooth things over, but her words rang hollow. That's not it, Julian. We just want her to learn responsibility. We're not mistreating her. But everything she said felt fake, empty. Maya was still clinging to me, trembling, and all I could think about was getting her out of that place. You don't love her, do you? I asked them both, my voice cracking. You never have. You've always treated her differently. And now this, making her wash dishes? You spoil Nina's daughters like queens. What kind of grandparents do that? My father's voice rose sharply. Don't push it, Julian. This is our house, and things are done our way here. If you don't like it, take the girl and leave. That was it for me. Those words were the final straw. I scooped Maya up in my arms, grabbed her little backpack, and walked right out without looking back. As I headed to the car, I heard my mother shout after me. Don't exaggerate, Julian. Come back here. But I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Not after what they'd done to my daughter. On the drive home, Maya was unusually quiet. Her eyes were distant, staring out the window. I tried to talk to her, to find out how she was feeling, but she only gave me short answers. Daddy, why don't Grandma and Grandpa love me? She asked at one point. And in that moment, it felt like the whole world collapsed around me. How do you even explain to a 6-year-old that the very people who should love her reject her just because she doesn't share their blood? They don't know what they're missing, sweetheart, I said, trying to keep my voice strong, even though inside I was breaking. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I love you with all my heart. That's all that matters. That night, after I tucked Maya into bed, I sat alone in the living room with a beer in my hand, thinking over everything that had happened. The anger wouldn't fade. I thought about all the times my parents made snide remarks about Maya, all the moments they ignored her while showering Luna and Zara with affection. And then I thought about all the money I'd spent on them, covering the mortgage, paying bills, doing favors. That's when I made up my mind. I wasn't going to keep supporting them, not after what they'd done to my daughter. If they couldn't love her like she deserved, then they deserved nothing from me. So I called the bank and stopped all the mortgage payments on their house. I also cut off the monthly allowance I'd been sending them to keep their lives comfortable. The days that followed were tough. I had to work hard to lift Maya's spirits because what my parents put her through was deeply traumatic. She mostly kept to herself, drawing quietly and being more withdrawn than usual. So my routine became this: come home from work and bring her toys or little things to try and brighten her mood. On weekends, we'd go to the park, and I'd buy her favorite ice cream. But no matter what I did, nothing seemed to reach her. Weeks after that awful day at my parents' house, she stayed quiet and sad. One evening, as I was preparing dinner, my phone buzzed on the kitchen table. Sophia was in the living room, humming softly as she colored with her crayons, a little song she'd learned at school. I glanced at the screen. It was my dad, Victor. I hesitated before answering, but part of me wanted to hear what he had to say. I thought, maybe they finally have the courage to apologize for what they did to my daughter. Julian, his voice was tight, almost desperate. The bank sent us a letter. They say the mortgage payments are overdue. What's going on? You always made those payments. There was a hint of accusation in his tone, as if I owed it to them to keep propping up their world while they tore Sophia down. I stayed silent for a moment, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Then I said, cold and firm, pay it yourselves. I'm done giving you another cent. On the other end, I heard my mom, Isabel, choke out a sob. Son, you can't do this to us, she pleaded, clearly on speakerphone. It's our house, the house where you grew up. We don't have jobs, Julian. You know that. Please, don't be so cruel. Her voice cracked with desperation. But I felt nothing but cold resolve. Her tears sounded fake, like a performance meant to manipulate me. Cruel, I repeated, gripping the phone so tightly I thought I might snap it in two. Is it cruel to stop paying the mortgage on a house that isn't mine? Or is it cruel to yell at a 6-year-old girl that she's useless while making her scrub dishes she can't even reach? Cruel is making her feel worthless while you spoil Nina's daughters. Tell me, Mom, who's the cruel one here? There was a heavy silence. I pictured them in their living room, staring at the phone, searching for any words to defend themselves. Finally, my father spoke, his voice authoritarian, the tone he always used when he wanted to impose his will. Julian, you're exaggerating. We only asked her to help a little. It's no big deal. She's a child. She has to learn to be useful. Useful? I almost shouted but lowered my voice so as not to startle Sophia, who was still coloring in the other room. Sophia is not your servant. She's my daughter. And you humiliated her, made her cry, treated her as if she didn't belong in this family. Just because she's adopted. Do you think I didn't notice how you ignored her? How you always sidelined her while showering Luna and Zara with toys? I'm not going to keep helping people who treat my daughter like garbage. That's not it, Julian, my mother interrupted, her voice suddenly pleading. We just wanted to teach her responsibility. We don't hate her. It's just that, well, it's different. Nina's girls are our blood granddaughters. Her words cut like a knife. Different? I repeated, feeling a lump rising in my throat. For me, there's no difference. Sophia is my daughter, and I love her more than anything in this world. But for you, she'll never be enough. Will she? She'll always be the adopted one, the one who doesn't count. Well, that's it, I said, my voice hardening. I don't want you near her ever again. And I'm done paying for you. Figure out your own lives. I hung up before they could respond. My heart was pounding, and my hands trembled. I blocked their numbers immediately, knowing they'd try to call back, filling my phone with excuses and empty pleas. But there was no turning back. They had crossed a line, and I wasn't willing to forgive them. Weeks passed, and their silence was broken by a call from my sister, Nina. Her voice was thick with anger, almost shaking with indignation. Julian, how could you? She started, no greeting, no preamble. Mom and Dad were evicted from the house. The bank auctioned it off on the street because of you. How could you do that to them? They're your parents. I sank down onto the sofa and looked over at Sophia. She was building a tower of blocks on the rug, her soft laughter giving me the strength I needed to stand my ground. It's not my fault, I said, calm but firm. They chose to treat my daughter like she didn't belong. They humiliated her. Nina, they had her washing dishes while your daughters played with new toys. They yelled at her, made her cry. Do you want me to keep paying their mortgage like none of that ever happened? It's not my responsibility to support people who don't respect Sophia. Nina was silent for a moment, then suddenly she exploded. You're being selfish over some silly thing. Mom and Dad have nowhere to go, Julian. Don't you care? They're your parents, for God's sake. And all because Sophia washed a few dishes. You're exaggerating. Exaggerating. I repeated, anger rising again. Nina, it's not just about washing dishes. It's that they treated her like a servant, like she was worthless. They yelled, useless at her while your daughters played the princesses of the house. Do you know what Sophia asked me that night? I said, voice cracking a bit. Daddy, why don't Grandma and Grandpa love me? Can you imagine how that made me feel? No, Nina. I'm not exaggerating. They crossed a line, and I won't keep supporting people who hurt my daughter. But you can't just leave them on the street, Nina insisted, softer now, almost pleading. They're your parents. They don't have jobs. They have nothing. What are they going to do if you don't help? I cut in, leaving no room for argument. I've done enough. For years, I paid their mortgage, their bills, everything, because they asked me to. But it's over. I'm done supporting people who don't respect my daughter. I hung up. Nina tried calling again, but I didn't answer. I wasn't going to waste my energy arguing anymore. My priority was Sophia, and no one, not even family, was going to make me doubt that. It wasn't long before my parents showed up at my door. It was a gray, gloomy afternoon, with clouds hanging low, threatening rain. Sophia was curled up in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, watching cartoons. When the doorbell rang, I expected the pizza delivery guy. But when I opened the door, there they stood, Victor and Isabel. Their clothes wrinkled, bags under their eyes, faces marked by defeat I'd never seen on them before. Julian, please, my mother began, voice trembling. We have nowhere to go. The bank took the house. Please, let us stay here, just for a little while, until we find something. My father, usually proud, barely looked at me. His hands trembled as he clutched a plastic bag with a few belongings. Son, we didn't expect you to take it this way, he murmured. The thing with Sophia was a mistake. We never meant to hurt her. I glanced toward the living room where Sophia was still absorbed in her movie, unaware of the tension. I thought of her tear-streaked face, her little hands struggling with those dishes, her quiet sobs trying to please grandparents who never truly loved her. A mistake, I said, my voice low but heavy with contempt. You humiliated her, made her feel worthless, yelled at her, treated her like a servant while spoiling Nina's daughters. And now you come here asking for my help. No, you have no right to be near her. Please, Julian, my mother begged, tears welling up. We're your family. We can't be on the street. What will we do? You made it clear Sophia isn't family to you, I replied, unwavering. And if she's not family, then neither am I. Get help somewhere else, but not here. Not in the house where my daughter lives. The daughter you hurt without a second thought. I closed the door, ignoring my mother's desperate cries and my father's soft murmurs. My heart pounded, and for a moment, a knot twisted in my stomach. They were my parents. But then I looked at Sophia, smiling at me from the sofa, and I knew I had made the right choice. They'd chosen their path. I chose to protect my daughter. Days later, Sophia started talking more. She'd been so quiet since that day at my parents' house, and I worked hard to fill her world with love, games, and happy moments to help her forget the pain. One night, as I read her a bedtime story, she looked up with those big, bright eyes and said, Daddy, I forgive Grandma and Grandpa. I don't want to be sad because of them. I was speechless. How could a 6-year-old have such a big heart? I pulled her close, tears stinging my eyes, and promised her I'd never let anyone hurt her again. Her smile slowly came back, and every day I did everything I could to bring that sparkle back to her eyes. She was my angel, and I'd do anything to protect her. As for my parents, I never saw them again. I later heard from Nina they ended up in a tiny rented room somewhere. I felt no pity. They brought this on themselves. And while Sophia forgave them, I never will. I never will.